Hey everybody, it's Dan, your friendly fishmonger from dansfish.com. Today, let's talk about rams, but not the German blue ram, the Bolivian ram, Microgeophagus altospinosus. Gets a little bigger, a little easier to keep, so let's take a look. Alright, let's go down here. We're playing with a new GoPro camera. I'm very excited to have it, and let's take it down and look at some of these Bolivian rams. Now, a lot of you are going to be familiar with the GBR, the German blue ram, Microgeophagus ramirezi, which is the other species in the genus. There's only two in the genus, these Bolivian rams and the German blue rams. And those are amazing fish. They're a little smaller and frankly a little more colorful. But there's some issues with them. They need to be kept warm. They love it in the mid-80s. They like a nice warm aquarium. And also, depending on where you get them from, they can be a little delicate, especially at first. New imports of the German blue ram can be really touchy for the first couple weeks. The reason I like the Bolivian ram is they have a wide temperature range. They can be kept from, say, the mid-70s up to the low 80s. So they do well in your average community aquarium temperatures. They get a little bit bigger, which is kind of nice. And they're just hardier. They don't have, in my experience, a lot of the issues you can get with the German blue rams. So that's why I think they're an ideal ram to start with. And honestly, when they color up, like there's that male there swimming up to the camera right now and going across to the left. When they color up, they are, in my opinion, they're a stunning fish. If we had never seen a German blue ram and we had just seen these, we would be like, man, those are amazing. But, you know, since we've seen German blue rams and they're a little more colorful, these seem second class. But they're not. They're an amazing little peaceful, hardy cichlid. Now, Microgeophagus, the genus name, means, you know, micro miniature, and geophagus, earth eater. And you can see that as they go around here, they sift the sand just like an earth eater would. So I keep them on sand because they really need to be able to suck the substrate into their mouth, sift it through their gills, and kind of extract food particles that way. If they're on big gravel, like your standard size aquarium gravel or rocks and things like that, I mean, or a bare bottom tank, they'll be okay, but they have this natural and perpetual instinct to feed like this. So if there's no sand in there for them to play with, they're just gonna have an itch they can't scratch. And so we don't want to do that to our fish. So a nice playground sand is what I'm using here, just straight from Home Depot, straight in the tank. You know, it's nothing fancy, but they really love it. I'm going to feed them here, which is why they all move to the front of the glass, because they know I'm going to feed them. I'll use spirulina flakes here, just because I like to get some vegetable matter in there. They're an omnivore and kind of a detritivore in lots of ways, just sifting organic material and little bugs and crustaceans and things out of the substrate. So in nature they live on a sandy substrate or a muddy substrate, and that's how they feed. Now, they're pretty slow eaters, as you're going to see. They aren't like rainbow fish or danios or barbs that are just absolutely mobbing the food with this frenetic energy. They are slow to the food, and they're peaceful. And what that means is they're going to do great in a community tank, but only if they're with other peaceful fish, and only if those fish aren't super fast to the food. So if you had a couple of these in with a whole bunch of barbs, you'd have to be really careful to make sure that they were getting enough food. It takes them forever, as you're going to see here, to like kind of go grab a flake, get it down, go to the next flake. They're used to just kind of continually eating, you know, sifting the sand and getting tiny little particles. So and doing that all day long. So the idea that there's 1 or 2 or 3 feeding times a day, depending on your feeding schedule, and that they need to go and like eat a whole bunch real fast is kind of foreign to them. So there's lots of fish that they'll do great with in a community aquarium, and they're pretty much an ideal tank mate because they're so peaceful and they don't bully anybody. Just make sure that whoever they're kept with isn't so food aggressive and so in-your-face active like a school of, you know, danios, zebra danios might be, that they get out-competed. Now, if you only have a couple danios or a couple barbs, they're probably going to be okay, but if you have a big group of them, you could get some issues with fish like that and rainbow fish and such. I said they get a little bigger than your German blue ram, and they do. Around 3 inches, maybe 4 inches would be pushing it for a really big one. Now, Because they're earth eaters, as we can see again, just going around sifting through the sand, they're not picky at all. So they'll eat flakes, they'll eat pellets, they'll eat rapashi, live food, frozen food, super easy to feed. Now they're a gregarious fish. They kind of like to group together. They aren't schooling. They might be more kind of like a shoaling fish, but basically they do really well in groups. They have a reputation for being shy, but I think that's because people don't keep them in any kind of numbers. If you only have one or two, they might be shy, but throughout this video, I'm coming to give them food. They all rush up for the food, right? They're not afraid of me. When I put the camera under the water or remove it from the water, they aren't zipping away. They're just hanging out. They're not a scaredy cat fish at all. So maybe if I only had like 1 or 2 or 3 or something, that might be different. But in large groups, they really shine and they're out and about. They're not hiding. They're kind of fun to watch. Now, sexing at this size is pretty darn difficult. When they're a little bigger, the males will get obvious kind of streamers on the dorsal fin and off the tail fin, the caudal fin, and females won't have quite as much of that. But at this size, I really can't sex them. If you want sexed fish and you're like, hey, please send me a pair, then I'll grab the one with the longest fins and another one with the shortest fins, and you might end up with a pair, but it's pretty hard at this size. They're not full grown yet by any means. They're maybe around 2 inches right now. When they do spawn, they're a substrate spawner. They're biparental. They do form a very tight pair bond. And just like the German blue ram, they'll pick like a flat rock or something like that and spawn on it. They're not a cave spawner. So they're not going to spawn so much in like a coconut hut or a ceramic cave or something. But just a flat rock or piece of tile or something like that, they'll spawn on that just fine. Now, the other thing is that I've done quite a bit of reading on this fish on the internet just to see what other folks are saying, and I run into statements like their category is hard, that they're difficult, and things like that. I just have never found that to be true with this fish. I think they're easy. Now, they are not happy with a lot of ammonia or nitrites or even excess levels of nitrates in the aquarium water. So, that could be an issue. I wouldn't put them in an aquarium that's newly cycled and not mature or anything like that. But as long as the tank's mature and you're not having swings in ammonia and nitrite and all that, I've never found them to be a problem at all. They're generally out and about. They're actively like cruising and feeding. They display to each other occasionally. As they grow, they'll do that even more. And I don't know, I think they're an absolutely kind of perfect cichlid to start with personally. I like these and African butterfly cichlids. I think are great fish for a beginner. So again, not quite as brightly colored as the German blue ram. The German blue ram really spoiled it for these guys. If we didn't have the German blue ram, these would be one of the most popular fish ever, I think. But even so, I think they're really pretty. As they get bigger, they will get more color. And even at this size, I like the reds, and they'll get bright yellows on them and things like that. And it contrasts nice with that nice deep black coloration that they have. So for me, I think they're absolutely fantastic fish. Anyway, that's about it for these guys. So let's take out the camera and go, go to the outro. Hey, thanks for hanging out, everybody. Thanks for watching. If you like this stuff, if you wouldn't mind taking a moment to subscribe, like, share, or hit the notification bell, that would be fantastic. And until next time, I hope you have a good one. Thanks. Bye-bye.